Welcome to GoPowerCat.com's Friday walkthrough, sponsored by Riverbank Brewing. Now, let's head into the studio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in here to the Friday walkthrough. I'm Cole Carmody with Monty Spiller. We are back after an off week. Kansas State will also be back to take on Arizona State at the Bill. 6 o'clock, ESPN, your number 16th ranked Kansas State Wildcats in the newly released college football playoff poll. The number 16 Kansas State Wildcats will take on the Arizona State Sun Devils. I don't believe these two teams have played, Monty, since the original inception of the Bill Snyder era in 1989. I'd have to double check that, but this is going to be a fun game on Saturday at the Bill.
It's going to be a fun game, and there's a lot of side stories. There's a lot on the line, actually, for both teams. A lot of people don't realize if things go right for Arizona State, they have a backdoor chance of potentially getting into the Big 12 championship as well, but let's not look at that right now. Let's talk about the Cats.
That's exactly right. Kansas State enters the game at 7-2, obviously coming off of the bye week before that, the disappointing loss at Houston, but still lots in front of Kansas State. We're going to get into some of those scenarios in the second half of the show. The first half of the show, though, we're going to look at this Sun Devil team a little bit and maybe what Kansas State can do to kind of expose some of their weaknesses. But before we talk about their weaknesses, Monty, we would be remiss if we didn't start the show talking about the number one story this week, which was Cam Skattebo's availability. As we tape this on Wednesday night, Pete Thamel of ESPN has come out and said that Skattebo will be available to play, barring any other setbacks. Kenny Dillingham said as such. This guy, Monty, is absolutely electric. 173 carries, 1,000 yards for 11 touchdowns, averaging 5.8 yards a carry, and that's without even playing last week against UCF. This guy's dangerous.
He is, and he's kind of the face of their program. You know, Arizona State being one of the new members of the Big 12, and actually with Arizona being in the time zone they're in, a lot of the national media don't know a lot about their team outside of Skattebo, and as well as the Big 12 fans as well. But if you go and look at any of his highlights, he quickly gets your attention, and he quickly gains your respect as a running back. That dude, he makes plays, he runs hard, and he's just fun to watch. He's one of those guys where he can fit in any team in the country, Pac-12. I'm sorry, not Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10, or SEC. But he is a dangerous player for them, and he is very fun to watch. But hopefully he doesn't have success come Saturday.
Well, you talk about ground and pound, throwback style of football. That's what we could see on Saturday. Obviously, DJ Giddens comes into this game at 995 yards. DJ right there in the mix for first team all conference. I think Cam Skattebo probably gets that nod right now, but hey, a big game from DJ breaking that 1,000-yard threshold will be big, obviously, for Kansas. Somebody asked Chris Kleiman on Monday, what would it mean for DJ Giddens to get 1,000 yards? And he goes, how many is he at? Oh, well, I hope he gets it in the next 3 weeks. You would think that would happen on Saturday against Arizona State, Monty, but man, you don't really see two running backs that are this good that typically face off each other in the year 2024.
No, you don't, and it makes it for a fun game. I'm glad we're here at home, but like you said, Giddens, he's our guy. We've had the opportunity to watch him all season in the last couple of years. But Skattebo coming in, if you don't know Arizona State football, I think a lot of the Cat fans are going to be kind of surprised of how physical he is. You said ground and pound. He is the epitome of that. He's one of those throwback running backs, hard-nosed, and he gets the team hype. Whenever it's goal line for Arizona State, you are probably 99.999% sure he's going to get the ball unless they just stack the box with as many people as possible where they force him to go another route. But if it's 10 and in, he's getting the ball at least twice.
No doubt about it. He has 11 rushing touchdowns on the season. He's also the second leading receiver for this Sun Devil team. They live and die by Cam Skattebo. And in their last game, a 35-31 win over UCF, obviously they didn't have him. UCF was on their fourth-string quarterback, and that was pretty evident. Threw a pick six right before halftime, which completely changed the trajectory of that game. I know Arizona State was down for a lot of that game before they found a way to win. But, as we always say, the wins don't have to be pretty, and they haven't been for Arizona State this year. This Arizona State team's interesting, Monty, because you look at their wins, and their only losses on the season are road games, much like Kansas State. However, K-State's lost at Houston, and Kansas State has lost at BYU. In that same realm, I think the Cincinnati and Houston are two very comparable teams. That's who Arizona State has lost to, and they've also lost on the road at Texas Tech. So this team really hasn't been pushed. They haven't played Colorado. They have not played BYU. They have not played Iowa State. So we don't really know what Arizona State is made of. They did beat KU, which is probably their best win of the season so far. They did beat Utah as well when Utah was ranked in the top 20. But I don't know what to expect with this Arizona State team. I know that they're going to come in and play hard, but do they have the talent to really compete with K-State?
They have the talent. I'm not sure if they had the depth to compete all 4 quarters, and both teams understand what's at hand for this game. And K-State has more pressure on them than Arizona State, in my opinion, for obvious reasons. But it'll be interesting to see how Arizona State responds. It's ultimately a night game because now at 6 o'clock it's dark.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a great environment because the Cat fans are itching to get back into the bill. We've been off 2 weeks, licking our wounds from that Houston loss. And everybody's waiting to see what adjustments have been made, what changes have been made to see if everybody's healthy, and hopefully everybody is healthy. So I think the environment will be rocking, and people will be anxious to see what we can do. And I think that kind of plays in favor for us. But on the flip side, Arizona State, they're not the big name team, but they have momentum. And if a team has momentum, you can't count them out. You can't do it.
Nope. And for as much as I love Chris Kleiman, I absolutely love Kenny Dillingham, the head coach at Arizona State. If you don't know who Kenny Dillingham is, he came from Oregon. And the great part about Kenny Dillingham, earlier this season when Avery Johnson's high school principal was diagnosed with cancer, Avery started a GoFundMe campaign. And Kenny Dillingham actually contributed to that GoFundMe campaign. He recruited Avery to go to Oregon when he was there, and obviously still feels very fondly about the Johnson family and Avery as well. He has his quarterback, though. Make no mistake about it, Kenny Dillingham. Sam Leavitt, the quarterback at Arizona State, has missed a few games this season, but they brought in multiple guys. And last year it was Jaden Rashada, a big-name recruit. Didn't really work out. He left, so they brought in some guys from the portal. Jeff Sims, I think, is a guy who everybody expected to start for them. If you guys remember, Jeff Sims started at Georgia Tech, had a great career there, transferred to Nebraska. And what a surprise, was horrible for the Cornhuskers. Seems to be a trend up in Nebraska land. But he is the backup because Sam Leavitt beat him out. Transferred from Michigan State this season. Leavitt's thrown for 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's also carried the ball 73 times for 301 yards. He's a true dual threat quarterback. And I look at what Sam Leavitt can do, and he can give a defense some problems.
He can. And what you just said, if you hear the teams that he played for, you know the guy has been in big-time venues and has played in big games and had success. So coming into the bill is not going to be a shock to him. Now, I'm not saying that they won't affect him because our crowd can be amazing, 50,000 strong, but he is a dual-threat quarterback. And K-State has had some success against dual-threat quarterbacks and not so much success against dual-threat quarterbacks. You know, if you look at KU, even though we won that game, he had a day against us, and that's something you can't really blink at. But I'm hoping, like you said before, that K-State can adjust and be ready coming into this game Saturday with the week off to be ready for Arizona State and the through their quarterback. But on the flip side, we have to figure out who are we going to not let beat us, you know, the running back or the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the question.
And really, as far as his favorite target, it's Jordan Tyson by a mile, 46 catches, 657 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I mean, it's 3 guys for Arizona State, realistically. And normally you don't really say that, or you might say that and you're like, well, there's some other guys that can chip it. But if you look at the stats, they want 3 guys to make plays. It kind of reminds you of basketball a little bit, where you know that the guys who are going to score, or they're going to average 15 to 20 points a game. And then if they can get 6 points, 7 points from somebody else, they'll be happy. That's kind of how Arizona State is. If they can kind of find a way to get Skattebo and Tyson going with 11 in the run game, they want 3 guys to help them succeed on offense. And, you know, I think maybe that's part of the reason they've struggled on the road, is because I feel like that's a little bit harder to do. You're not going to be able to audible as much. You're not going to be able to check out of different routes. There's just things that you're going to have to do differently on offense. And I expect the Kansas State defense, whenever they have gone up against an offense where there is a big name star. So think about, in this case, Colorado. Now, obviously, Travis Hunter got hurt, but if you remember in that game, he did not do much up until he got hurt. You think about that game. You think about Devin Neal. I understand Devin Neal had a good game, but he didn't have the game that he had against Iowa State. Anytime it seems like K-State goes up against a guy who is the guy, they have typically done pretty well. And even throw back to the Arizona game with McMillan. Typically done a pretty good job of making sure that that number 1 guy doesn't beat him.
You're absolutely correct, and our coaching staff has done a good job of preparing for that. And on the flip side, with the extra bye week, I know a lot of times when you have 2 weeks to prepare, you prepare for the next game, and you also give younger guys the opportunity to get more reps. But I'm hoping K-State comes in with a game plan, looking at film of teams who have had success against Arizona State and putting our own spin on it. And my question is, will our defense and will our secondary specifically be able to play a lot of man coverage, because I think our back is going to have to be in the box to slow the run game down, and with the RPO when that does come. And if that's the case, we have a fighting chance. But if not, it could be a long day. But I'm hoping that guys can step up, play some man, bring some heat, and keep our backers in the box for the run game.
As a defensive player, anytime you know that the running back maybe missed the last game or he's showing some wear and tear, I mean, that has to fire you up. Like those defensive guys, not that saying they want to hurt Skattebo by any means, but they want to come down and make their presence felt. I would have to imagine that as a defensive player, you are licking your lips when you start to see reports of he didn't play last game, he's questionable to play today. Is he playing? I feel like as a defensive player, you're almost like, bet. I hope he plays, because you want to make him feel like it was a mistake to suit up.
Absolutely. And you don't ever want to intentionally hurt another player, because that's just not the integrity of the game. But as a defensive player, you do want to inflict pain on him and make you feel you. So I guarantee you, when we tackle him, because he had a hurt shoulder, from the reports I'm understanding, when you tackle him to the ground, run your feet, and whatever shoulder that's hurt, try to tackle him on that shoulder. And every time you get him, if he's in pass pro, if he try to block you, you hit that shoulder. If he's going out for a route, you chip that shoulder. You keep hitting that as much as you can to take it away from him, because I understand he's a tough kid and he can fight. He's probably going to fight through it, because I know against Central Florida, he was begging the coach to get back in, and they didn't need to use him. But he's a hard-nosed kid, so I have no doubt that he's going to bring the fight. But as a defensive player, you are well aware of that, and you not saying you're targeting it, but the opportunity comes, take advantage of it.
Yeah, how many times do we see that? I mean, not just in college, but in the NFL as well. I mean, how many times you watch Patrick Mahomes? He's got a gimpy ankle, and all of a sudden it continues to bother him throughout the game. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Skattebo, obviously he's not going to be at 100%. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get 100% of the workload on Saturday. The thing about this Arizona State team, Monty, is they've given up 12 sacks. I believe, or 14 sacks, 14 sacks given up between Sims, the veteran quarterback, and Levitt, the freshman quarterback. 14 sacks given up. I feel like that's kind of a high number, especially on defense. K-State finds a way to get after the quarterback. It makes me think that if they can get to the quarterback, get the young kid pressured, he's going to have a really tough time, especially if he's locking into one or two receivers.
No, I'm with you. And we have the ability to put pressure on a guy. If you're watching the film, we got 3 or 4 guys that can beat their tackles off the edge or with the stunts that we run. So the capability to put pressure on Arizona State for K-State, it does exist. My only question is, and I'm hoping, going back 2 weeks ago, and this is time of year, and you understand it too, this is the time of year you want your team to start to peak. Mm-hmm. And our defense, in my opinion, hasn't even started that incline yet. And you want them to start a peak in the last couple of games going into the playoffs or bowl game season, whatever it may be. This is the game for our defense to start that climb to that peak for the next 3 games and potentially a 4th game or a 5th game, wherever it may come. And I haven't seen it. So this is a good opportunity, in my opinion, because you're going to get tested in the run game and some in the pass game. But for our D-line to get pressure on the quarterback, it would be tremendous if we could do that early and kind of rattle the young guy on Saturday night.
And you look at Arizona State's defense, Monty. This is a defense who has been the definition of A, bend, don't break, and B, just middle of the road. I mean, you look at how many points they're giving up, and it doesn't jump off the pages. Wow, they're giving up a lot of points. But it also doesn't jump off the pages. Oh, the defense is the reason that they're winning games. They've got 18 sacks on the season, which I think is a really good number, but it just feels like anytime you have, and we've talked about this before, 3 of the 4 leading tacklers on this Arizona State team are defensive backs. And, that's a whole nother issue. If you want to dig into the tape, you could probably answer that question. I would assume they rely on their defensive backs coming down to make tackles. But I just look at this Arizona State defense, and if you can score some touchdowns early, K-State can have some serious success against this group.
Yeah, and I'm hoping K-State just pounds the ball. I need to see our offense run the ball. And like you said, with the D-backs being 3 of the leading tacklers, that means a big game for DJ and potentially a big game for Dylan. I want to see our run game get going. I need to see our O-line get back on track and pose their will, because The last game, they got manhandled. Say what you want to say. You might not like it, but it's facts. But good news is you have a new game to recover and go from there. So I want to see the run game get started first and then the pass game. But yeah, the fact that their secondary are so involved with tackling, that lets you know their front line, their front five, and their backers aren't as good as they should be in a lot of games. So we'll see how that goes come Saturday.
Before we go to break, Mike, I got to ask you, it's Fort Riley Day. K-State does a lot of fun things with Fort Riley Day, with Harley Day. Obviously, they have sometimes they do the stripe out with the game, the opening game. What is your favorite promotion and favorite quote-unquote day at K-State when they do that every year?
With Fort Riley in specific or the other ones all together?
Fort Riley, Harley, which one?
Probably Harley, man. It's one of those things where when you're there and with the first time you see it or the second time you see it, the motors revving and the smoke and the crowd's getting crazy. Harley is probably up there. But Fort Riley, I love it too because you see all the military personnel. I remember there's a while back where they used to shoot the cannon off.
Yeah.
Stadium, and that was awesome. Every time we scored, they would shoot the cannon off, and the whole stadium would rock. So probably those two.
I'm looking forward to seeing the flyover with the choppers on Fort Riley Day. That's always my favorite part.
This is true. Yep.
We will talk about Kansas State and Arizona State a little bit more about what Kansas State needs to do to be successful, not just in this game, but the rest of the season. We will talk about that when we come back right here on the Friday Walkthrough.
It's time to take a break for our sponsors. We'll be back with more from GoPowerCat.com.
Nestled in the heart of beautiful and historic Council Grove, Kansas, Riverbank Brewing is the perfect place to stop before or after the game. Riverbank Brewing, located in downtown Council Grove.
Now let's head back to the show for more K-State sports coverage from GoPowerCat.com.
Welcome back in here to the Friday Walkthrough. Cole Carmody with Monty Spiller. Once again, shout out to Riverbank Brewing for sponsoring this episode and every episode of the Friday Walkthrough. Make sure you are stopping into Riverbank Brewing on your way to Manhattan. It's a 6 o'clock game, so hop in there, have a little drink, watch a little football, the 11 a.m. games, make your way on up to the Bill because K-State is back. They got the Arizona State Sun Devils. And Monty, before we look at the bigger picture, I want to break this down specifically more for what K-State needs to do in this game on the offensive side of the football, because I have my answer and I've been banging on this drum for as long as I possibly can. But Avery Johnson just got another week to get healthy. Anytime number 2 has the ball in his hands running the football, he can be electric. Is it finally time where we see Avery have a really big game rushing the football?
I hope so. And if not, if we don't see him with the ball, I have questions because ultimately starting Saturday, every game for us is a playoff game. Mm-hmm. Because if you lose a game, I'm sorry. Previous years, bowl game was great. That's special. It's not the same anymore. It's not the same. The ultimate goal is to get to the Big 12 championship. So every game starting Saturday is a playoff game. So use the weapons you have, including Avery. Let him loose. Cut him loose. Let him do what he does.
Is this a chip on the shoulder type of game for the offensive line? Because it feels like the last few weeks we've said, oh, the offensive line is going to come out and impose their will. And they just haven't. And so I don't know if that's been a health thing, if that's been a scheme thing or what. But at some point, the offensive line has to just say, screw it, we're going to do it. And I feel like, you know what? If we've been wrong about it the last 2 weeks, they haven't really done that. This is a great opportunity for them to literally and figuratively put the team on their back.
Yeah, they have to. You know, if I'm in the coaching room, if I'm an offensive player, I'm O-line, I'm looking at my guys in the face and say, hey, find a way. Ain't no excuses happening this week. I don't care. If you're not healthy, find somebody that's going to be healthy. Get away. If we got a double, if we got a scheme, whatever it may be, we have to find a way to control the line of scrimmage because the offense goes as we go. A lot of people don't want to look at that. Football guys know that. People that's been around sport understands that. But as the offensive line goes, the offense goes. And Avery is dynamic as he is, DJ as good as he is, and Dylan as well. If the O-line is not doing their job and getting movement, it's not going to happen. So the O-line has to put pressure on themselves and do what they do. And hopefully Saturday is the start of something special.
I think we're going to tell early on, Monty, if this Kansas State run game is going to be effective because every time K-State's able to run the football, they've gotten a good initial push in the first half. Maybe they're not completely getting to the second level, but they're able to get a push off the line to where DJ is able to hit the first yard or two untouched. And if he can get to the line and the offensive line can move their guys off the ball a yard or two, it completely opens it up for DJ, because then if he gets contacted 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, he will fall down for another 2 or 3 yards. And if you're getting 5 yards a run, that's going to wear down the defense. That's what makes DJ so effective. The opposite is also true, though, because if he's contacted in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage, instead of getting 5 yards, he's getting 2 yards, and it completely changes things. And so DJ is probably not going to hit the home runs that he's gotten in the past, simply because Arizona State knows that that's how K-State wants to move the ball. But if you're at the game, watch the line. And if the line is getting a push off the ball in the very beginning of the game, it's going to be a good sign, I feel like, because then if they're able to get 4, 5 yards a carry in the first half, it really just opens up the playbook.
Yeah, you're right. And one thing I would like to see, and I get it, because most offensive coaches want to come out and impose their will and kind of set the tone. And K-State has not been successful the last couple of games coming out running power, coming out running basic plays. I would like to see K-State come out with some movement, give some smoke, do something. But on first down, don't come out with a basic run up the middle and everybody knows it's coming. We need to be a little more creative to loosen up that defense a little bit, get their eyes moving and get them out of place, and then create creases. I'm not saying to get away from the run, but I like to see on first down, second down, something different. Don't be so predictable like we have been in the past. And if we're seeing that predictable, the other teams are damn sure seeing that predictable. So I like to see that happen as well. But yeah, I would definitely be watching the O-line to see what kind of push they get, and also to see their demeanor. I hate to go back to the Houston game, and I said I wasn't going to, but their demeanor, the whole team, but the O-line as well, there was no fight in their eyes. It was kind of like, oh, well, they stopped us, back to the huddle, next play. There was no emotion, in my opinion. Maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I want to see emotion out of those guys.
Yeah, some swagger, right? You want to see some swagger.
Yeah.
They're making stops against Colorado and holding up their wrist, and you know what? That's part of the game, and people can hate on that, but the more swag that you play with, sometimes that can get into the opponent's head. And you know what? People can hate on Colorado, and I've definitely done my share of doing that. But when they celebrate after they make a good play, you know what? They let the other team know, I just beat you, and that can kind of creep into the mind of an opponent. And I look at what this K-State team can do on offense. I think they can be really successful. They're going to have to be successful because Arizona State is not going to give up. I mean, the spread right now, the last I looked, was at 8 points. We'll have our picks here in a little bit, but this Arizona State team, they're confident. They've only lost 2 games, and so it's not like you're playing the Sisters of the Poor. This is going to be a really good game. K-State fans are going to have to show up, but you know what? So are the players. And I look for the tight ends, Monty. I know I talked about the offensive line, but I look for the tight ends. They have been a big part of this offense, but I think they can be a bigger part of this offense. The way that K-State uses its play action, they use those fake outside zones, those fake jet sweeps, and then the tight end goes out like they're going to go block, and then they release, and they're wide open in the flat. I want to see some more of that, and that involves Dylan Edwards, it involves Jace Brown, but really more so it involves those tight ends, because they are the ones who you can scheme them open. They don't even have to beat somebody. Tight ends can be schemed open, and if they can catch the ball and get upfield, they can help make really big plays for this offense.
Yeah, you make a great point about the tight ends and Dylan, but Arizona State, their defense, if you watch them, they have a lot of athletic guys in their defense, but they also tend to get out of their lanes, be bad with their eyes, and they overflow a lot. And if you got a team that plays aggressive downhill, you can allow yourself to slip things behind them and get them out of position to make plays. And watching them on TV, they remind me of a Central Florida team 2 years ago or a year ago that had a really good athletic defense, and they were fast and they were decent. They didn't have a lot of depth, but when they got to you, they got to you. But when a lot of times they'll get upfield so fast, you could get screens behind them, or you can get them with misdirection. And I think that same thing can happen with K-State this Saturday against Arizona State. They can get them moving and get things behind them, and hopefully the tight ends have a big game, like you said.
Yeah, and you know what? It's going to be a fun game to watch. If you've been following along Go Powercat this week, you've heard about this game for the last 2 weeks. Monty, we don't normally do this, but the last 5 minutes of the show, I want to kind of break down some scenarios for fans. Maybe you're driving to the game, maybe you're listening to this in the parking lot, or maybe you're just bored at work and you're listening to us. Either way, if you're following along at home, here's what needs to happen for K-State. Obviously, they need to win out. More than likely, and if they lose, they will not be able to make the Big 12 championship game because they already have 2 conference losses. Although Colorado is also 7-2, they have a non-conference loss to Nebraska, which, as I mentioned, by the way, looks horrible right now. But they will have to lose another game in order for K-State to make the Big 12 championship game. The only exception to that is if BYU loses out. Now, I don't believe that is going to happen because this BYU team is ranked number 6 in the country and has not lost. However, they play Kansas on Saturday. They still have to play Arizona State, and then they get Houston at home the last game of the regular season. Crazier things going to happen. I don't believe that is going to happen, however. So if you're K-State, you got to focus on yourself, Monty, but I want to ask you this. Will Kansas State play in Arlington at the conclusion of the regular season?
You can ask me that next week. I'll have an answer for you.
Yeah. No kidding.
It's a lot has to happen, and like you said, and let's look at different scenarios. I say that we can win out. A week ago, I wouldn't have been so confident because Iowa State was rolling, and then when Tech beat them, I was like, you know what, Tech offense was a better matchup against Iowa State's defense. They got that win, but I knew Kansas would be a tough matchup for Texas. I mean, for Iowa State, and it proved to be true. So now I would say yes. Reason being, I think we can win out. I was nervous about this game, but I'm confident. And then next week as well. But then going to Ames, I feel like our guys understand if we're one game away potentially of making the Big 12 championship, lay it on the line. And also, if they remember the thumping they took last year at home in the snow game, if you don't remember that, that's on you. Yeah. But that's one of those things. But I feel like Kansas can beat Colorado. And it's the games in Arrowhead. And if you watch the Kansas-Iowa State game, and there were quite a few Iowa State fans at the game, but there were also a lot of Kansas fans there. And they understand they're playing for pride and they're playing for the future. And those guys are playing like they actually have a bowl game in hand. And if you watch that game, they are playing honestly, I'm glad we don't play them again.
Yep.
Because they're probably one of the best teams. Yeah, I think they can beat BYU.
Yeah.
I really do. And me being a K-Stater, never thought I would say that, but they're playing good ball, and it is what it is. So with that being said, yes, I think we have an opportunity to be in the Big 12 championship game if we win out.
Really what it comes down to is this. Will Kansas State have a chance when they go to Ames to make Arlington? If the answer to that question is yes, then I think you got to be satisfied as a K-State fan. And I think I agree, by the way. I've said this the whole year. I never believed in Iowa State because they've never won 10 games. So why should I believe that they can do it now? They've lost 2 games already. If K-State beats them, they'll be 9-3. I think that K-State will win out. I firmly believe that. But I have to see it on Saturday. I have to see a good performance by Kansas State in order to feel good. Now, if they win and they barely win, I don't know. But if they can find a way to win and look good doing it, then I think it really helps their case. And Monty, let's not forget, this team's number 16 in the college football playoff. I know people are poo-pooing the idea of them going 10-2 in the regular season, missing out on the Big 12 championship game, and making the college football playoff. Is it unlikely? Yes, because I really believe if this team finishes 10-2, then they will be in Arlington. But yeah, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. You got to have some teams lose, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more next week when it becomes more clear. But I'm really excited for this next sprint of a finish. I mean, can't believe it's already November. There's only 3 regular season games left, but it's going to be a great game on Saturday. And K-Staters, bring your energy because it is going to be much needed as we wrap up the show, head into our picks segment. Monty, I will go ahead and go first. And I've been thinking about this game, and every week Ryan Gilbert always texts me and asks me, hey, what's your pick for the game? Because we have a betting article. And every week I've picked K-State to cover. Every week. I think maybe since we've done this show, I've picked K-State to cover. And I've just always felt pretty good. Typically, K-State covers. Well, it's an 8-point spread. But for the purpose of this, Ryan Gilbert asked me 9.5 because that was the spread the last time. So do I think K-State wins by double digits? I'm going to say that they do not win by double digits. I just don't know if they're going to be able to pull away completely from Arizona State in this game. The Big 12, it's so hard to predict more than a one-score game. So I'm going to say K-State wins this game 31-24.
I like the prediction, and I'm with you too. I don't think we'll win by double digits either. I was leaning more towards 35-28, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's more points for us in that, and we come out with the win. But the way we played the last couple of weeks, and today proved me different, I don't have the confidence that they can. I'm hoping I'm wrong. But I say Cat 55, Sun Devils 28.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the conference. These are two good teams, 2-7-2 teams. You can find a way to get out there with a win. Even as we said, you know what? If it's an ugly win and you're winning, well, maybe you don't feel so good, but you still won. That's the positives. For Cole Carmody, oh my goodness, I just messed this whole thing up. For Monty Spiller, I am Cole Carmody. Thanks everybody so much for sticking with us here on the Friday walkthrough. Enjoy the game. We will see you at the Bill. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next Friday.
Thank you for watching the Friday walkthrough, sponsored by Riverbank Brewing. This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production.